This is Sandra Simmons, and she has a really amazing business. And one of the reasons I know most of my listeners are saying, Valerie, why are you doing this? Because usually I talk about DIY self care in turbulent times. Well, she's right for that because she does planning, business planning, and cash flow planning for businesses. And right now, she's going to specialize on this program in turbulent times. So I'm going to let Sandra Simmons take over because she has an amazing corporate background, but she has created her own software. If you'll tell us the name of your business, Sandra, and I mean, you can see Cash Flow Mojo is right there. What a great name.
Yeah. Yeah, my business is actually named Money Management Solutions,
Okay.
because I did accounting and tax preparation for many, many decades. But I always taught my business owners how to operate on cash flow management because it puts them in control of the financial future of their company. And so I developed a software program so that they could do that very easily and put all the training inside the software program and named that Cash Flow Mojo, Mojo meaning magic,
Oh, I
because
love it.
I tested it on my own business finances first and it worked like magic.
I
So I
love
named it Cash Flow Mojo. And we just went from there.
Is it a self-guided program, or do you help them train it at the beginning, or is it so easy that they can just install it and go?
It's all of the above. I built in the video training so that they could follow each window step by step. And what they see is me working in the window, telling them what I'm doing and why I'm doing it that way.
Right.
There are some cells that you put amounts in that could be used 4 or 5 different ways, depending on the industry they're in. And I explain all of that because nothing's written in stone. Cash flow management is a dance between income, profits, bills, past due bills, paying off debt, putting money in savings, all of that stuff. Yes, I do coaching. I have an onboarding program if they would like help getting started. But then I also have people that just call me out of the blue saying, I'm in deep debt.
Right.
Tried everything to get out. I can't do it by myself. Can you help me? And
That's
of course,
wonderful.
I look at their financials and figure out if I can help them or not. And usually I can. And then we just go from there with a little, one-on-one program on an hourly rate.
Well, that was going to be my other question was, do you have a sliding fee, whether it's a type of business, or do you like to stick to just, it doesn't matter, just so people know. Do you like to stick to your one fee, hourly fee?
It depends. It depends on the size of the business and the complexity of the problem. I have pulled large corporations back from the brink of bankruptcy,
Gosh.
but I've dug hundreds, if not thousands, of small businesses out of credit card debt.
Yes,
And
that's
because
how
they're
we
in that
finance it.
situation, yeah,
That's how we
because
finance it.
it's always finances, yeah. And so yeah, I can do a sliding scale. But the other thing I do is I sell them a small block of hours. I tell them I think it's going to take me this
Oh,
this
that's
number of
great.
hours. So we sell a very small block of hours and we agree on the end result we're going for. And if that little 3 or 5 hour block of time isn't enough, I'll say I think I need another hour with you.
That's great.
I'm very flexible. And with the software, there's no contract, there's no obligation. You can get on it. And when you think you can do it by yourself without it, you can get off of it. A lot of people do that and they end up coming back, but it's up to them.
Well, it's like having it's wonderful to have the expert because that's how we make mistakes is listening to ourselves. Tell me, Sandra, because I really feel as though like right now, because I think we're wrong if we're not facing reality that it's going to be rocky for us. And I would like for people to still believe they can start a business. I believe that a lot of people say, I'm going to wait until things calm down. I'm going to wait until this and this and this. But I actually think in rough times, it's the best time to start a small business, even if it's a sidekick, because I really believe people need to have more than one income. I really believe in multiple sources of income, and something that had been a hobby. Now that we're online, I mean, maybe it could be writing, or perhaps it could be for me, my public speaking courses. So, can you talk a little bit about how you help entrepreneurs start of a small business and using your idea of cash flow with them?
Yeah, the first thing that they need to understand, because cash flow is not being taught in any educational system in our country. They teach a little bit of accounting, just enough to be dangerous. But what they need to understand is the difference between accounting and cash flow management. So the analogy I like to use is if you're trying to drive your business down the road using accounting, it's like trying to drive a car looking in the rearview mirror. You're looking back at old historical documents. Accounting is what happened in the past, how much you made and where you spent it. And actually, the primary reason that we have to do accounting is because it produces those financial reports called profit and loss and balance sheet to give to our CPA to prepare our taxes at the end of the year. So it's a game for the tax preparers. And accounting doesn't give you an active roadmap or any guideposts on how to do better in the future. That's the job of cash flow management. Cash flow management is actively managing your money. So now you're looking through the windshield of the car instead of the rearview mirror. And at the very front end of the car is today, and you look all the way down to the invisible end of the road to what's called your retirement.
Ah,
And plan for that journey.
so what are some tips for people who are just starting out as far as cash flow, a small business? Let's just say it's maybe a writer, because we're both on Alignable and I work a little bit with I probably work more with artists than anybody else.
Yeah. A writer is just perfect because I have always encouraged every business owner that I've had as a client to write a book about what they do. And I even designed a course for them called How to Write and Self-Publish a Book in Less Than 60 Days. And it's a presentation that I give free of charge. And I give a huge amount of written data in the end, which is like a guide, and they can follow it step by step to write their book.
That's amazing.
Um, so if you're thinking about starting a business, the first thing you need to do is what I call acid test your idea.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to people about what you're planning. Ask them, would you buy this?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, how much would you expect to pay for this?
Mm-hmm.
And how often would you buy it? So what you're doing is you're kind of surveying your target market to see if it's a valid business idea. At the same time, if you're working for someone else, you're going to have capital to start your business to avoid going into debt and putting the expenses on a credit card. So what you do is you take little bits of money out of your pay working for somebody else and start setting it aside for the expenses of running that little side hustle that you've got going. And that keeps you safe from, going into too much debt, which is a critical error. And I love working with new entrepreneurs because if I can get a hold of them before they get any bad money habits ingrained, they're golden because I'll get them operating on cash flow management and they are way ahead of the game.
I think that's a really important point, to stay employed while you're starting your business. I did that when I opened my small luxury inn located in Hyde Park, New York. I worked full time and the taxes were so much anyway in New York. I kept but plus I loved what I was doing in New York. I had a career in fine wine and spirits, and of course I just had to have a bed and breakfast. It'd been a long time dream, but it was 40 acres and 3 houses. So it was a big project. But what I didn't do, Sandra, and when I look back now, because I sold it, but I didn't save enough money because the place was so expensive. But you know what? And let my listeners know this, that don't listen to that little voice that says, oh, I'm going to sell my business for a profit or this or that. Do a plan B. And I don't care if it's $5 a week. Put it somewhere where you're not going to touch it. And maybe that's an IRA, or maybe that's a Roth, or something where you'll be penalized, a CD. I don't care what it is. But do something so you do have an emergency fund for your business.
Absolutely.
Because that was the mistake I made here I am in my mid-60s, starting completely over because selling the property didn't bring the profit. Believe it or not, something like the pandemic can ruin your business.
Yes.
I think it's really important that we train ourselves, as you said. If you are employed, then take that take whatever you can, even if it's a small pittance every week, $5 to just start putting it away.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, hard
Yeah,
lesson
that's the first
learned.
thing you have to do. We in cash flow management, we have a saying for small business owners or even big business owners, never fly without a parachute. Good advice, right? You
Yes.
want that business getting up off the runway, making money, making profit. But what happens when an economic roller coaster
Right.
slide comes along? Are you prepared for that? And you build a parachute as you go, like you talked about. You didn't save enough money. So cash flow management actually gives you a roadmap. It gives you guideposts of exactly how to spend your money in the best interest of your coming business or your existing business. And it even puts guardrails around you to keep you from spending too much money, keep you from going into debt, keep you on the straight and narrow, because that whole journey is focused on someday you're going to want to retire.
Yeah.
And so if you're already working, it doesn't work if you just turn those income faucets off and go for it. You start turning the income faucet on in a little side hustle and then get the flow going more and more and more to the point where it's about, at least half or three quarters of what you're making in your
Mhm.
employment. And then you start looking at turning the faucet off on the other side of being an employee.
I think that's a really good idea. And I think there are some life coach gurus out there who will tell you, oh, just take that quantum leap. You're going to make enough money with your new business. I think that's really unhealthy advice. I mean, I'm living proof that I didn't save enough money, thinking that when I sold the inn, there would be wonderful cash flow, but the pandemic took care of a lot of craziness. So I didn't have the money I needed. But that's okay because I have a new business and I'm helping a friend in a restaurant. So, and I think that's the other thing is that to help your cash flow management, don't be proud. If you find a way to help yourself make money while your next empire is being created, do
Absolutely.
it. Do it. I think so many people are under the impression that I want to be at the top. I'm going to start at the top. I'm not going to sacrifice this in order to have a successful cash flow business at the beginning. And I think, stop listening to some of these coaches because the life coaches who tell you to take a jump where it's a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah, because the other thing that they don't tell you is that if you spend all your time working in your business, in your side hustle, and never spend any time working on your business, which is managing your cash flow, you're going to go broke.
Mhm.
Cash flow management consists of two things. You have to answer two questions. How much is it going to take on a weekly basis, cash flow coming in to pay for the operation of my business and to do better than break even? And what better than break even means is my cash flow program demands that you put money in what I fondly call four buckets of cash. And
Mhm.
here's what they're for. The first one is for emergencies,
Mhm.
pandemics coming along,
Okay.
your spouse loses their job, any type of emergency, you've got a plan for that. So you put in little bits of a week, every week, into the emergency bucket. The second bucket is for business expansion. Are you going to need, can you work by yourself or are you going to need an assistant
Mhm.
so that they can take care of the drudge stuff that you hate to do, like combing through your emails, getting rid of spam, doing, posting social media? If so, you have to start setting aside for their pay because they're not going to be productive in helping you bring in income the first 6 weeks they're working for you, but you still have to pay them for that.
Right. Right.
The third bucket is for things that smack you upside the head when you least expect it, that are really ugly, and you go, man, why didn't I see that coming? And that's taxes, a
Yes.
legal situation. Somebody wants you to sign a partnership contract or a JV contract, joint venture.
Right.
And you need an attorney to look over that contract and make sure that you're not signing your life away or doing
Right.
something that will harm your business.
Yes. Yes.
And then the fourth bucket is for, guess what? Your retirement.
You. Yeah, finally.
Business owners don't pay themselves an
Right.
adequate salary, and they should, but they should
I had
also be,
I never paid myself with the in, never.
yeah, yeah. But did you know that you should be paying yourself a second paycheck every week?
Mm.
And that is called your retirement because you take on all the risk, all the liability, and all the responsibility of being that business owner. Whereas that assistant that's working for you, they don't have any really responsibility except for what they're supposed to do. So, that can help you as well.
I do. I welcome the world of virtual assistants. I use one now. I don't have a lot where I need. She works with me pretty much with graphics. She's big with Canva and she knows Kajabi the way I teach my classes. So I think that is a boom. But I agree with you. Every week I try to have a project for her because I'm not going to be doing it. So, and
Right.
it's not that expensive. When I work with her, it's only between $50 to $80, but I make sure I have that. And I let her know that I have a project coming up. But she's quick at turnaround. But I like her to know that these are all the things I'm thinking about doing in my business.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
agree, I agree with that with the assistant, that you don't have to have them in-house, but you can certainly budget for a virtual assistant to help you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you budget for everything. What I tell my business owners, because a lot of times people hear the word budget and they cringe because they think that they have to stop spending money on anything fun and just really cut back on the things that they like to do. They to eat macaroni and cheese and that is not what a
Right.
budget is about. A budget is to keep your business growing, but to keep it safe. And the one number that you need to know is the what your realistic budget tells you. And that's how much money it's going to take to run your business and how much, do you need to put in those buckets of cash to achieve all of the financial goals that you had when you got this bright idea that I'm going to start my own business.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's just really
I think that
important.
is so key. And I think one of the points that you made at the very beginning of our conversation is nobody is learning this. I mean, here I am making oodles of money through the wine career, and I'm making oodles of money with the inn. Now, with the inn and the 40 acres, really everything had to go back in. But looking in hindsight, Sandra, I easily could have had four buckets. But
Yeah.
I want the audience to listen to this because I think this is really important information, that I had all this wonderful access to cash flow and the property was making money. I was making money in the wine industry, but I never really, well, I invested heavily in my IRA, but when the pandemic came around, guess what happened? And your IRA shouldn't be used for emergencies. So I think this is really important that my listeners, especially for entrepreneurs, and I want people to look at a side gig, because whatever's going to go wrong with our economy, I really believe people should have something else to do. Maybe you're a gardening expert and you can start a community garden and you can help people grow their own food. I'm big into people growing their own food, because where I live in close to Gulfport Community Garden, we have a volunteer vegetable garden, and it feeds us between now and say July. I mean, I hardly
Right.
go shopping. So I think it's important for people to think about having that side gig and then talk to you.
Yeah, because anything that you have control over, you can manage to your own best interests. Like I tell people, stop being in control or being controlled by the balance in your bank account.
Mhm.
Stop writing checks to your suppliers and making them wealthy without even thinking about what you can do to help yourself. So cash flow management is putting you in control of your income and profits, putting you in control of your savings, and anything you can control is is golden. Um, it, you're not at the effect of the economy. You're not at effect of the other
Right.
people.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's what's really important, is that you create your own economy. You don't let whatever's going out in the outside world. Obviously, you pay attention, but you control your own economy. And that's what's important, I think, about having. I understand that maybe not now you're going to start it, but everything that you told us today about starting those buckets and look at the way you can create a business that you would love, that won't take away from the job that's going to help you make that swing. I think that's really important, that people understand that you can create your own economy. And it's not a business, as you mentioned, that's going to tie you down. It's really going to be something you love, and it can help you with your retirement also. Can you share with us a story where you saw you had a small business where you had to take them out of the really drags of financial crisis and turn them around?
Oh yeah, I've got lots of those stories.
Well, I saw you said you.
Okay, so a small business. I'll choose a chiropractic office, a client that I had because they're usually solopreneurs. They've got a little space. They've got a table where they adjust people, and they've got usually two staff, one front desk gal and one office manager. And things are going along fine. Well, this chiropractor happened to be in Connecticut in a town, and he called me and he said, I'm in real trouble here. I said, what's going on? And he said, I didn't know who he was, didn't even know how he found me. Turns out it was a referral. And he said, I live in a town where every August, everybody, including the grandmothers and the dogs, go to the Hamptons. There is nobody
You're
in
going to say
town.
that. Yep.
But I have to keep my office open because there are service workers here still working. I still have some patients, but it goes down to like from 100 a week to 3 a week. And I make no money, but I have to continue to pay all of my business expenses. And, it's just really hard and I can't make it through August. And so I said, well, why don't you do this? And when you get to September, which we're in right now, miraculously, you figure out how much does August cost you? Add up all your expenses for August and divide it by 4.3 weeks. And that's how much you have to pay a week to get through August, which you're not making. And so you take that number, that combined number, and you say, okay, I'm in September. A year is 52 weeks long. I've got 48 weeks to save up that amount of money to get me through August. And so you put little bits in your emergency bucket that equate to that 48 weeks, number divided by 48 weeks. And so he said, well, that's brilliant. I'm going to do it. I said, okay. So
I love it, right?
I checked on him every once in a while. He got on my software, and I would sit down at the end of the week with him and just log in remotely and go through one of the 20-minute cash flow management planning cycles that you do at the end of every week to make sure that, you're allocating properly. And, watched him put that amount of money in that emergency bucket of cash called August. He called it August.
Right.
And so by the time August rolled around the next year, he could pay for the whole month without ever having one patient come in. Isn't that great?
That's a good feeling. That's funny. I was doing something similar to that with the inn, but because I had my other career, it's like they balanced. When the wine and spirits industry was busy, the inn would be slow. And when the inn was busy, the wine and spirits would be quiet. But I never put anything in buckets. So I think that is really something important. So Sandra, I want to close this out and wrap this up because my gig is keeping it short. But what I would do is take some nice parts of well, everything that you said is so vital because as you said, the fact that we're not learning this in school and probably not even when we're in graduate school or business school, not what you're doing. I think this is really important information to get out in several formats with my podcast.
Yeah. And, one of the most important things a small business owner can do for themselves to be good to themselves is ask experts for help. We're out here. We want to help you. So just ask. I'll take a phone call and answer a question any day of the week from you.
And I think that's really important because there's
determine you're going to be a financial change maker and not go down the route that most businesses go down, that you're going to transform your business by using cash flow management and doing the things that you need to do because you're in control of its survival and it lives or dies by what you do.
And I think the important thing that you showed with this gentleman who is a chiropractor, it's never too late to reach out to you because you have even helped people avoid bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite stories is that construction company that had been in the family for 4 generations, and he was 3 days out from his bankruptcy date, and when he called me, he had $30 in his operating account, and my first thought was, "Oh gosh, why didn't you call me last year?"
Now that's a
You know,
good story.
yeah, but I ended up saving him. It's quite a story. It's very interesting, and parts of it are very funny. Um, but I promised him I could pull him out in 6 months, and it only took me three. Because
Wow.
in conversations with him, there were some things that he was doing on the operational side, not the money side, but the operational side, which affected the money,
Mm.
which caused him to be 3 days out from bankruptcy. So it was a huge win for both of us, and that I just feel so warm in my heart every time I think of him because he's
Well,
still in.
I think it's also the fact that you can look at someone's business operation because his heart and soul is in this, so he can't really see that
Yeah,
clearly any longer. But for
yeah.
you to be an outside person, you can spot them relatively quick compared
That's
to.
so true. It's like you're looking at a person like me. I'm looking from a 30,000-foot view at the whole operation. I have no vested interest in his company living or dying, except in my heart, I do. And I can see the things because he's working in his business, not on his business. He's down in the weeds. He can't
Right,
see anything except his problem. And
right.
so I can identify things. And it's not that, he's wrong for doing them. It's just, he just, did stuff and didn't see the repercussions that it was causing. And it just kind of roller coastered on him. So, you just point those out and say, well, look, I see this is affecting this over here. So why don't we do this and change that a little bit or a lot?
That's
um,
wonderful. Really.
I don't make a person wrong for making mistakes. God knows I made my share of mistakes before I discovered cash flow management back in the early 1990s. So, it's not that you're wrong for doing it. And the good news is that cash flow management can actually help you reverse the mistakes you made in the past, no matter how long ago they were.
That's really important. So I want my listening audience to notice that her company is Cash Flow Mojo and her contact information. You can see where her website is, but I'll also put this in the podcast details. And when I send this out, everybody will have her information. Sandra, thank you so much. This was one of the best ever because I want people to start their own business. I want,
Me
I want,
too.
I really do. I want people to, we need, it's just we're going to have a rough time, I think, for the next couple of years. So I want people to reach out to you.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much
much.
for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra.